All right, welcome into Surviving Paradise, the podcast that takes a sometimes serious, oftentimes humorous look at the claim by the governing body of Jehovah's Witnesses that they are living in a modern day spiritual paradise. I am your host, Stacy Bauman, former elder, ministerial servant, and most importantly, a kid raised as one of Jehovah's Witnesses in the 70s and 80s. I always like to wish you a a warning at the outset of every episode. We like to have some fun here. We're trying to heal, create some community. There's lots of sarcasm, lots of humor, and my own brand of observation and experiences, never meant to offend anyone. We just like to create a safe environment to talk about what sometimes are very serious subjects, oftentimes so absurd we spend a little over an hour laughing. This week, it's going to be different, and I don't know what's gotten into me. If you've listened to this show before, I want to issue an additional warning that this one may trigger some folks. And sending out my virtual hugs, as I always do. This episode may be a little bit longer because, quite frankly, this one is a big, big deal. 2 weeks in a row, I don't know what's gotten into me. I like to have some fun to break up all the serious stuff. But this one, there's just nothing fun here. There's nothing fun here. So be warned, we're going to tackle a serious subject this week, one that affects millions of wonderful people who most certainly don't deserve the stress and pressure that they're often put under by the governing body of Jehovah's Witnesses. But at the outset, I want to recognize and send an immense amount of love without losing it right at the beginning of this episode to the folks in Germany. While we grossly disagree with the governing body of Jehovah's Witnesses, we fully recognize, including most people that listen to this podcast, that we all used to be one, and we used to sit in kingdom halls week after week. And to see what's happened in Hamburg, Germany is so disturbing. And candidly, as painful as it is for me to utter these words, I'm not surprised. I've been expecting such actions. Just last week, we discussed mental health among Jehovah's Witnesses. Certainly, there's an element for those that aren't healthy or that are under duress to seek revenge. And we don't have all the facts around that terrible situation in Germany. Just lots of love. I run out of words to the people affected, to the people that are lost, that just went to a congregation meeting and never went home. Lots of love. I have no words for it. But sending all of that to the folks in Germany, whether they're Jehovah's Witnesses or not, is irrelevant. Violence against anyone because they believe differently than you do is repugnant. Period. Okay. We're going to go with another hard-hitting subject, as I mentioned, for the second week in a row. And to be honest, I'm not sure how to tackle this particular subject. Is that becoming my tagline? Because, again, I don't feel that I can even remotely do it justice, but I'm going to take a shot at it. As is the case with all of us, we're colored and impacted by our own upbringing, our own personality, our own emotions, our own experiences. And that's certainly true of me. And well, frankly, this subject infuriates me. So there you go. It is so ridiculous and it just pisses me off to no end. And as is the case with so many subjects, this one exposes the underbelly of Jehovah's Witnesses. And it's tricky. This is one of those subjects that is a fine line between the cult of Jehovah's Witnesses and, oddly, the Bible itself that they claim they base all of their beliefs on. And you've heard me talk about it before on this show. That's almost two different subjects, at least in my mind. The Bible is one thing, and what Jehovah's Witnesses and the governing body take from it, in what I term Christianity a la carte, is almost a subject unto itself. It's controversial to those that may not like Jehovah's Witnesses, but still see the Bible as a holy book. And I try to be balanced as someone that appreciates the Bible as a piece of literature, but I openly share on this podcast, I do not in any way, shape, or form see it as something written by a supernatural, all-powerful spirit creature that can create the atom and DNA, but can't seem to keep his story straight in a book that claims to be a life or death letter to his kids here on the earth. I can't do it. And I've tried. I've studied the book for years and years and years, read it 7 times. I could get into that in another time. I'll just get this out of the way. I don't believe that at all. I've studied that book for decades, but it can't be denied that while the governing body is all things by Bible a la carte, so to speak, picking and choosing what they think is important and should be obeyed, this particular subject is one they lean into hard by repeating and leveraging the Bible's overt cruelty. And the Bible is cruel. How a Christian can even deny that, I have no idea. You might remember, this is the book that condones slavery of women and children, that condones misogyny, that creates cutting a woman, or doesn't create, it features cutting a woman up into 12 pieces and mailing her body parts all over the landscape. This book has talking snakes, talking donkeys, burning bushes, bullies that are giants. It tells us men of faith include guides that have sex with their daughters, or kings that kill innocent men and then steal their wives, whose author is a God that drowns babies and puppies, kills kids for laughing at a bald guy, and kicks the worst guy in the universe out of his house in heaven and hands him the keys to his kid's house here on earth. So, Satan has a place to stay and all. Yes, that book also gives us some straightforward hatred on the following subject. And all of us are expected to agree with it, obey it, or suffer the consequences if you're a Jehovah's Witness. If you don't agree, you get the consolation prize of the book's author burning you alive at his next round of genocide, something he promised he'd never do again, but oops, he decided he wanted to. If at this point you're wondering what is the subject from the magic book that the governing body vehemently obeys and promotes? Ah, yes, the subject of homosexuality, being gay or being a gay person, loving a person that happens to be the same gender as yourself. Now, I want to state right from the beginning, this is a tough subject for me. I realize that's becoming a tagline in many weeks, but I'm not entirely sure if I come at this in a balanced way. And it's a tough subject for me, probably not for the reasons you all think that it is. I'm always transparent on the show about myself, my thoughts, my own mistakes, my feelings. And this subject has always been odd to me. I can't conceive of why this is even a thing. I just don't understand why this gets any attention. And it's probably why I've delayed talking about it. You've got 2 great people who love each other. They're the same gender. And this is a conversation? Why? There you go, my brain on full display. I don't get it. I've never gotten it. I grew up in the 1970s through the 1980s, and I'm not stupid. I've seen gay people treated very poorly, including in high school in the 80s. Had a couple of guys, peers in my grade that were gay, and they weren't treated well, except by the girls who really embraced them and took them in. And that's how I got to be close friends with them, was through the girls, not because I was avoiding them, but because that's just how I was introduced to them. And even then, I just didn't get it. But I'm also the same guy that doesn't remotely understand racism. I can't wrap my head around that either. How are these things? How are these things? And I have to admit, it's either the way I'm built, or the way I was raised, or having an amazing mother who never exposed us to some of this crap? I don't know. I probably subconsciously avoided this subject until now because I truly struggled to wrap my head around it, and I always have. My mother, who is incidentally still a Jehovah's Witness, did a great job of raising us three kids to love everyone. We're a family of introverts, but we truly just love everybody. Unless they give us a reason not to, then we don't like you at all. So it didn't matter the color. It didn't matter that two men loved each other or two women loved each other. So I am fully exposing myself as somewhat vulnerable or ignorant or whatever the word is, that I don't get how this is a thing. I don't understand it. I've never seen the world this way. So I've struggled to comprehend that this is even a matter for discussion. But let's be blunt. It is a thing. It is. For millions of people. And so where my brain connects or goes into overdrive on this subject might be a little different than most. And it's just keep in mind, as I always state, it's just my take. Anyone who knows me knows I have zero tolerance for bullies or people that disrespect other people. There is no excuse for it. My reaction isn't probably good. And I'm going to be very frank on the show, has gotten me into trouble in the past. In fact, it's gotten me into a couple pairs of handcuffs, and not in a fun way. Subject for another day. I recognize, and have seen it with my own eyes, that gay people are constantly picked on. They're persecuted, and they're vilified by most Judeo-Christian religions. And not all of them, some have loosened up, but in most cases, you're going to see the very ultra-Orthodox religions condemning or vilifying two people that love each other that have the same body parts. And especially is this so by the governing body of Jehovah's Witness. So that was a long ramble, but you've been warned. I've got very strong feelings on this subject, and they border at times on rage. That's the truth. So there you go, folks. Here we go. Buckle up and come along with this podcast host. So I want to reiterate, this subject is in a unique bucket. Jehovah's Witnesses don't have the market cornered on cruelty toward gay people. It's an earmark of many, many religions. But as is the case on this show, we're talking about Jehovah's Witnesses, so we're going to stay there. What comes next is a look at what Jehovah's Witnesses are taught regarding our wonderful gay people. It starts in Jehovah's book, the magic book that cuts right to the chase about how the creator of all things has very strong feelings, apparently, about gay people. Or, as I want to note here, that religion has somewhat distorted, because there are thoughts around homosexuality, and even the verses I'm going to share, that they're not really talking about gay people, which are interesting. And I tend to agree, but that's a whole nother show. We're just going to focus on Jehovah's Witnesses and what they message and tell millions of people about wonderful gay people. I want to call out something important here that once again hit me as a teenager in Jehovah's Witnesses. And I think I do this a lot, but I'm sorry, on this subject, this one hits me like a baseball bat to the head. And it did as a kid who had friends, as I mentioned, that were gay. Jesus Christ himself, he of the Gospels, and current king of Jehovah's Witnesses, and currently directing all things from heaven, once again seems to forget very critical information that affects millions of the people he calls precious. When we read his story, his messages, his parables, his prophecies, we find him encountering and speaking to the following people: prostitutes and whores, adulterers, Gentile soldiers, angels, demons, religious leaders, Pontius Pilate. We see him talking and speaking to children. We see him speaking to his mother. We see him speaking to his cousins, fishermen, carpenters, merchants, God himself. But if you haven't noticed, Jesus never speaks to a gay person. Not once. Huh. That's right. If you're keeping score at home, the person who came to die for all of mankind and share his Father's message of hope not only apparently never encounters a gay person, but here's my favorite part. He never even mentions one, or condemns gay people, or talks about homosexuality, or even demands that they change. Just a small observation from a teenage boy that I have carried throughout my life into adulthood and my time as an elder who happened to deal with people that were gay. Jesus himself seems to have missed the memo on something that affects the very heart and soul of millions of people. Must have slipped his mind, might have been in the same bucket with things like 1914, 1919, and a whole slew of other things the governing body wants us to believe. There are approximately 6 places or verses in the Bible where it condemns being gay, at least allegedly, or on the surface. Again, others have taken these apart to show that they may be commenting on other things that just happen to involve gay people. But of these 6 verses, 3 are in the Old Testament, and then there's 3 in the New Testament, which basically, those in the New Testament quote the Old Testament, and all by, isn't this interesting, one guy, the warm and fuzzy Apostle Paul. What a guy you just want to hang out with. His dating profile likely reads something like this: former Pharisee who didn't like Jesus or his friends, who enjoyed picking up large rocks and throwing them at their faces until their heads caved in, had a change of heart, decided he liked Jesus after Jesus blinded him as he walked up a road one day. He was blinded by the light. Yes, I was tempted to drop in Manfred Mann's song, Blinded by the Light. I refused. This guy is also apparently not a big fan of women. He likes bragging a lot. He leans into racism in multiple locations, but of course wants us to know that Jesus loves him, even though Jesus never met him. The Apostle Paul. Oh, it's coming in a whole episode. But of those six mentions of homosexuality in the Bible, 3 are in the Old, 3 are in the New, basically talking about the Old. That's it. None of them from Christ himself. So let's just go back to the beginning. At Leviticus chapter 20 and verse 13, a Jehovah's Witness in any array of media, whether it's in a Kingdom Hall or in their literature and a video, is hit with Leviticus 20:13 of the Mosaic Law, no longer in effect, but oft quoted by the governing body. It says this, quote, "If a man lies down with a male, the same as one lies down with a woman, both of them have done a detestable thing. They should be put to death without fail. Their own blood is upon them." End quote. So there you have it. You're born onto this earth. You're gay. You simply love someone of the same gender. But Jehovah finds you detestable, and your friends should be sure to take you out and kill you. The Bible comments on homosexuality actually earlier than this at Genesis 19 with the story of Sodom and Gomorrah, where the men of the city spot the visiting genderless angels there to visit Lot. So many questions. Do angels have penises? Why do they show up as men? Do they look like Brad Pitt and Idris Elba? Or are they just new guys in town? On and on. The question always comes up. But none of that matters. The fact that the men in town found them attractive and were apparently gay is so terrible and bad. And honestly, they are trying to commit a gang rape. Let's be clear here. That Lot, the man of faith, is really upset and comes up with a solution on the spot. Here, have my precious daughters instead. They're virgins. Have a great time. Thanks. No word from his daughters on how they felt about being offered up to the gang, but as we see very soon, they've got some questionable qualities. They're okay getting dad drunk and having sex with him. Trying not to throw up in my mouth. None of this matters because gay people wanting to have sex with strangers is so bad that Jehovah burns the entire city to death. Lot's wife never apparently objects to her daughters being offered up for a sexual assault, but gets turned into salt anyway for turning around to watch everything burn. And by the way, Lot is a man of faith we should all emulate in life because he wasn't going to allow gay people to have sex with strangers. Yay! By the way, this story and how you should feel about gay people is forced on children, kids, baby brains. And it's done so with colorful Bible storybooks, dramas at the convention, and now really charming childlike videos featuring Sophia and Caleb. I gotta take a breath. I think I also have to state here, isn't it interesting that the Bible comments so much on gay men? There doesn't seem to be a lot on lesbians. In fact, nothing. This book couldn't have been written by men, could it? No way. But this is but a couple of examples from the Holy Book, the Bible, that the governing body leans into hard to show disdain for anyone that is attracted to someone of the same gender. The Bible never explains why a man may find a man attractive or a woman may prefer another beautiful woman. Jehovah apparently decided to leave out any context on this. He kept it simple. Those two women that love each other, take them out and throw rocks at their faces till they're dead. Thank you. It's so absurd that I have a hard time even being serious about it, and it really is serious, as we will see. We could likely take several hours on this subject, and I could already see it's going to. Because what the most important book in the world just decided not to share has been researched and examined by scientists, doctors, biologists, anthropologists, archaeologists for decades. Some of the findings have been incredibly interesting. What we have found on people that happen to be gay or love people of the same gender is absolutely fascinating, easy to research in some cases, in most cases, and is very well documented, but none of it is in the book that's supposed to save our lives, that we're supposed to read every day according to the governing body. Would you like to hear a few of those things that may make a gay person or those who are upset by this subject like I am feel a little better? Here's a few. Biologists today find homosexual behavior across 450 species, which argues the fact that homosexual behavior is not an unnatural choice, and in many cases may actually help and play a very vital role in the populations of those species. It's necessary. Imagine that. Yep, we have gay giraffes, we have gay pandas, we have gay goats, gay rattlesnakes, get this, gay fish, and even gay lions, my favorite animals. Someone want to tell them they're wrong? No word yet on if they stone each other or shun their young. It's in the animal kingdom. As it should be. There's nothing wrong with it. It's natural. Again, my brain's going to interject here, folks, because this subject's absurd to me. This is part of the human experience to our wonderful gay people. There's nothing wrong with it. Even rattlesnakes can be gay. In a 2019 study from MIT and Harvard, analyzing the DNA of nearly 500,000 people from the United States and the United Kingdom, they concluded, remember MIT, Harvard, there's some smart people there, not as smart as the governing body apparently, they concluded that genes account for between 8% and 25% of same-sex behavior. In fact, there are several genes that appear to impact our sexuality. They're still researching it. So if you're a Jehovah's Witness hearing that, for my fellow J-dubs, former J-dubs, I might say, as we're now mentally diseased apostates, this sure sheds some new light on Psalms 139:16. Wouldn't you agree? You remember it well. It said, quote, "Your eyes saw even me as an embryo. All its parts were written in your book, regarding the days when they were formed before any of them existed." End quote. Ah, yes, your parents didn't know that you were gay, but Jehovah did. Doesn't that create a few questions? Let's hang out and consider what some of those questions should be. Science shows this. The animal kingdom shows this. The Bible says Jehovah knows this. Huh? I got some questions. And while there is no gay gene, science has found that certain genes in women help increase their fertility. But if these genes are expressed in the womb, this is so interesting. In the womb as a male, they can sometimes predispose the male baby towards being gay later on in life. And it's interesting that they found that multiple male babies born in one woman's womb, so a mother of 2, 3, 4 baby boys, it may actually predispose one of the male babies, or female, if they're all female, that come from her womb toward genetic attraction to someone of the same sex. Isn't that fascinating? And Jehovah claims he knows this. Don't forget that. He saw even the embryo of you. I'm so fascinated by it. And I'll note here, it makes all of our unique and wonderful gay friends so special. At this point, anyone have questions for the creators? You know, Jehovah or Jesus? Because I do. It's fascinating. I could go on for several more hours, but you know what I'm alluding to, or what I'm hinting at. The creators are involved in our wonderful gay people according to their magic book. I could go on for several hours, but this is a snapshot of comments. And what follows now is just a gut punch on gay people from the God who created gay people? He made what? We should all have a list of questions, but let's take a look at what the governing body has to say and how, I'm not going to be able to get into it in this episode, so there's going to be another, how it impacts innocent, normal, loving people that are gay, either hiding it as one of Jehovah's Witnesses or have been kicked out of Jehovah's Witnesses and are being shunned by the very parents that passed on their genes and created them. There is no way to capture the pain of this entire subject or emphasize the emotional impact of a gay person who grows up a Jehovah's Witness and feels horrific about themselves. Remember, the Bible uses words like detestable, like go out and kill them all. The very God that they sit in a kingdom hall and claim to worship, that they hope and clamor for, that they hope loves them personally, calls them detestable. There is no way to capture that emotion on this show or any other. Massive virtual hugs to all my gay friends, my gay family. But listen, now we're just going to take a look at how this happens to Jehovah's Witnesses. And for anyone with the power to change this nonsense, whether it's governmental, legal, whatever, get on it. Here we go. I'm going to share stuff that they claim is written with the spirit of, with a Holy Spirit pen. I don't know what other way to say it. From Jesus and Jehovah himself. To my gay friends that are listening, please know I know this could trigger you, okay? Please take a minute, breathe. I'm going to try to get through it without absolutely losing my shit. I've alluded to having a temper on this subject, and I do. Lots of hugs. The governing body labels homosexuality as one of the vilest sins that a person could be a part of. And it reminds practicing homosexuals that Jesus and the Fine Nine in upstate New York has plans to kill them all at Armageddon. When I was a kid, the old blood red youth book, oh, if you're old enough, you remember the youth book, included commentary on how just masturbating will turn you gay. And the teenager reading that counsel, who was also maybe masturbating, maybe gay, maybe not, is also on their way to being killed. There are boatloads of references in Jehovah's Witness literature still accessible on their glorious website. And keep in mind, a young gay person, someone fighting what comes natural to them, are in a second-by-second torture chamber, fighting to survive for simply being themselves. They listen to this stuff at every meeting or convention. Then they go home alone and deal with unbelievable pain. And I know I can't capture it. I'm not gay, but I have very close gay friends and gay family, and I see it. Here's a few of the things that they're exposed to, from Jesus to his most loving shepherds in upstate New York. From the Watchtower of 2012, March 15th, page 31, gay people are called abhorrent, sexually degraded, unnatural, and sordid. From the Awake of 1997, December 8th, pages 14 through 15, an unnatural sexual perversion. From the Awake of 1995, February 8th, page 16, sick and perverted. From the Awake, 1995, February 22nd, page 14, gruesome, violent, and downright sadistic. From the True Peace Book, page 150, disgraceful sexual appetites, they're obscene. From the Awake of 1982, June 22nd, page 10, worthy of the death penalty. I swear to God, I'm going to punch something. From the Awake of 1989, July 8th, page 27, perverted desires. From the Watchtower of 1979, March 15th, pages 10 and 11, detestable to Jehovah, vile and repulsive. I'm stopping there. This is a sampling of what an innocent gay person, including a teenager, would hear or read going back several decades during the time this guy was growing up in the 70s and 80s, and my time as a servant and as an elder. You roll up to a kingdom hall looking to be spiritually refreshed as a confused kid going through puberty, trying to figure out who you are, struggling with your self-esteem, your sexuality, the way you look, how you're dressing. That one's for you, tight pants, Tony. Not having friends at school, or not even having friends in the kingdom hall. And you're hit with this vile hate speech about gay people, followed by the assurance that this comes from Jesus himself. I know I'm going to get some skeptical people saying, well, Stacy, and listen, if you're a witness listening, we respect that. You're brave. Please stay. But you may be having the thought, look, we've softened our language on this a little bit. Listen, have they? Have they? In the Pure Worship of Jehovah, Restored at Last from 2018, page 157, just a couple years ago, we get this. Quote, if someone tries to convince you that God's standards regarding homosexual conduct are mistaken, will you agree with him? Or will you agree with Jehovah God, whose word, there's the magic book, clearly states that those who carry out such acts are working what is obscene? That's the question someone is posed with in reference to being gay or homosexual or a lesbian, sitting in the audience of a kingdom hall. You going to agree with this, or you going to agree with Jehovah, who says they're obscene and they should be stoned to death? And aside from that, if that doesn't drown you in guilt as a parent of a gay teenager or anything else, what will? You're a mom and dad, and you happen to know that one of your children is gay. You're supposed to stop loving a gay person because Jehovah, who made human beings and made gay people finds them obscene? Huh? Do I need to explain what this does to the psyche of a wonderful gay person or the parent of a wonderful gay person? But sticking to the theme that the governing body and their messaging in modern times, and again, I just read you something from 2018, folks, has softened their language against gay people, allow me to show from their inspired literature exactly how they feel about gay people in modern times. The Awake, and again, I read a list, but we're just going to do this. In The Awake of 1995, February 22nd, page 14, a gay person would be hit with, homosexuals find themselves in darkness mentally and alienated from the life that belongs to God. Thanks. End quote. The thanks was mine. You're a young teenager, you're a new person. Imagine being a gay person who's an adult and getting hit with this in a Bible study. You're being told that God thinks you're obscene, you're detestable, and you're alienated from him anyway. I can't possibly speak for our gay friends because I'm not gay, as I mentioned, but I'm also a very compassionate human being that has very close gay friends and gay family members that I love with my whole soul. So sit with me in this Jesus-ordained inspiration for a minute or two. Again, I can't emphasize enough, you had a terrible day at school or work, but you get home. You wolf down a peanut butter and jelly sandwich for dinner because you have no time to eat anything else. You get dressed in your uncomfortable monkey suit and tie, or maybe your modest dress that covers every inch of your skin. You're at the Kingdom Hall to be encouraged, to find comfort, to receive instruction from Jesus Christ himself, to just get a warm blanket coming out of this painful world. And you're realizing that you're gay. You're sitting there in that Kingdom Hall with emotions only a gay person can explain. And you're hit with this. You're hit with the fact that they consider you a freak, that you're in mental darkness. And Jehovah himself has already rejected you. Nothing you do matters. You're already rejected. You're in darkness mentally. So what happens is a gay person begins to hide their feelings. They begin to hide who they are, most especially if they're young, from their parents, whom they love with their whole soul. And they definitely hide it from their peers and most especially from the elders. We'll get to those guys. By the way, they tell gay people, that the governing body, that's right, even Toni Morris, up to just 2 weeks ago, that they're smarter than any doctor, any psychiatrist, any biologist, any psychologist, or any other medical professional who studied this subject for decades. From the same February 1995, page 12 article, it says this, quote, the medical profession, I can't believe this, the medical profession has also jumped on the bandwagon. Traditionally, doctors viewed homosexuality as an illness. That's actually true historically. Sickening. But in 1973, the American Psychiatric Association declared that homosexuality would no longer be considered a psychiatric disorder. Since then, many in the medical profession have all but placed their seal of approval upon the homosexual lifestyle. End quote. So again, if you're keeping track here, if you're following along in my disjointed, rambling, emotional diatribe, doctors realized they were ignorant, and in 1973, this podcast host, by the way, was 6 years old, they corrected themselves after realizing that it's a normal sexual decision or romantic decision for millions of people. But not Jesus, guys. After years of giving away magazines and with zero formal education, the governing body just knows better. They're just smarter than everybody else. And to emphasize how absurd the Fine Nine are, they continue to promote this idea. In fact, they call it a fact that being gay is a learned behavior, that it's a decision gay people make, more specifically, a moral decision. At this point, I have to remind you that the scientists have discovered gay fish. They know of gay lizards. They have seen and studied gay gophers. And my favorite one, get this. This is so fascinating. They have studied gay dragonflies. Because, well, these insects, these fish and reptiles, have really developed their moral compass, according to the governing body. That's right, folks. The governing body claims it's a moral decision, a learned behavior. So if you're following along, fish, lizards, gophers, giraffes, lions, and dragonflies have made the decision to be gay. I'm going to do a mic drop. Let's all go home. This is too absurd to continue. But we can't. So feast your ears on this. Brace yourselves. I'm trying not to throw things down. From the Hey Dad, It's All Your Fault department, from the Awake of February 8th, 1995, pages 15 through 17, we get this nugget of Holy Spirit. Quote, sometimes faulty family environments also seem to play a major role, especially among males. No word on the ladies, the lesbians. It's so fascinating in this organization. Quote, mental health writer Joseph Nicolosi claims that male homosexuality is almost always the result of problems in family relations, particularly between father and son. Interestingly, significant numbers of homosexuals are victims of childhood molestation. I just can't. Scientists may never resolve exactly how much of a role nature and nurture play in same-sex attraction. But one thing is clear. All humans are born with the tendency to succumb to wrong thinking and inclinations. A Christian, read Jehovah's Witness, cannot excuse immoral behavior by saying he was born that way. Child molesters invoke the same pathetic excuse when they say their craving for children is innate. But can anyone deny that their sexual appetite is perverted? So same is for the desire for someone of the same sex. End quote. Oh my God. It's on their website. The same website and organization that protects child molesters. But they went there. Two things before I lose it. They're blaming a father and son relationship for a boy going gay. I don't know enough about that to comment, but I'm quite certain that I don't believe it. They just compared gay people to child molesters. Wow. I'm so sorry. I am so sorry. It's not even my place to apologize. How bad is the governing body of Jehovah's Witnesses? They not only vilify a gay person who's just a wonderful person who loves another person with the same body parts, but they just compared them to child molesters. And they did it in a paragraph right under the radar so everybody could get hit in the gut with it. And then they also blamed your dad. Wow. This is a group that hides child molesters. But our wonderful gay people are destroyed by this same group. And compared to the very sick pedophiles they protect, where do we go? If you're a Jehovah's Witness listening, please sit in this. It's your literature. If you're wondering how someone, excuse me, folks, becomes gay that never had a father, well, so am I, because I didn't have a dad and I'm not gay. I'm not going to even begin to comment on the sick crimes against children. I just can't, folks. But how about their not so subtle comparison here of wonderful, loving, high character, honorable, loyal gay people being compared to child molesters. That being gay is a learned thing. It doesn't come naturally. You may actually turn gay just by thinking about it or watching a movie. That's what they promote. You don't believe me? Oh, yeah. Right back to the blood red Your Youth, getting the best out of it from 1976. By the way, this podcast host learned all things puberty from this book, but on page 42, and what an ignorant goldmine of garbage this book was. It says this, quote, "Does what you watch have an effect on you? What at first may seem repulsive may not seem that way in time. And consider this, young 13-year-old that you're studying with right now. How did the majority of homosexuals get to be that way? By spending time thinking about it and by associating with others who were that way." End quote. If you're keeping score, I use that phrase a lot because I gotta pull my own thoughts in on this because the rage hits. It's your dad's fault. You learned it. You decided to be this way. You were just watching a movie or hanging around people that were gay, and now you're gay. And oh, by the way, you're just like a child molester. Jehovah hates you and wants to kill you. To our gay friends, I can't hug you enough right now. I just can't. This is hate crime. On page 39 of that same illustrious red book, we get this fact. Quote, "Contrary to what many persons think, homosexuals are not born that way, but their homosexual behavior is learned." End quote. And don't worry, it continues from the governing body. This whole gay thing will just pass. From the June 6, 2012 article, teenagers ask, notice these books are targeted at kids. Teenagers ask, "I'm attracted to the same sex. Does that mean I'm gay?" Still on their lovely website, we get this, quote, "Fact. In many cases, same-sex attraction is nothing more than a passing phase." End quote. Yep, just a passing phase. I've been unable at the time of the recording of this podcast to confirm that a giraffe or a dragonfly were interviewed regarding their passing phase. But here we have it confirmed by Jesus, the same creator of the giraffe and dragonfly, that it's all just a phase. Not only for them, but for gay human beings, because they said so. Interesting they didn't quote a study to support this phase comment. Nope, nothing there. It keeps going. Are you sick yet? From the Bible Teachings, Bible Questions Answered, March 5th, 2018 website article, we get more love for innocent gay people from the governing body, where it says, "Can a person be born homosexual?" The Bible doesn't comment directly on the biology of homosexual desires, though it acknowledges that we were all born with a tendency to go against what God commands. Rather than focus on the cause of homosexual desires, however, the Bible prohibits homosexual acts. End quote. I hate reading all these references, but it paints the picture in what will probably be a part one of what is now going to require a part two on this subject. Do you see what they do to the minds of people that aren't paying attention? The Bible doesn't comment on the biology of homosexual. You don't say. 6 verses. But it does tell us that we're all born to be bad people. Welcome to the governing body and how they teach. Undeserved kindness. You don't deserve to be treated kindly. You have to continue to labor to get Jehovah and Jesus' love. And here we have it. Bible doesn't comment on what it means to be gay, but it does tell us that we're all bad. But you may be wondering what it is that really upsets the governing body about gay people. I can assure you that, like everything else in Jehovah's Witnesses, it always leads back to sex. Again, a subject I've covered on this podcast that is normal, it is beautiful, it's wonderful. Most of us really enjoy it. It is, especially with someone that we love or are attracted to. But for the governing body, sex is just this weird, dirty thing. And so for gay people, the fact that they have the same plumbing and is all that matters, because it doesn't matter how they feel about each other, their loyalty, their character. None of that matters. It leads back to sex, not love between two people. But really more importantly, how those two people that love and are loyal to each other will actually touch each other. They hate that gay people enjoy sex so much that they've told married, heterosexual, non-gay people that they can't enjoy sex the same way gay people enjoy sex. Are you following this disaster? From the True Peace Book of 1986, page 150, it says, quote, "The inspired Bible writer did not have to explain the natural way in which the reproductive organs of husband and wife complement each other. Homosexual relations obviously cannot follow this natural way. So male and female homosexuals employ other forms of intercourse in what the apostle refers to as disgraceful sexual appetites and obscene practices. Could married couples, note heterosexual, man and woman, imitate such homosexual forms of intercourse in their own marriage and still be free in God's eyes from expressing disgraceful sexual appetites or hurtful desire?" End quote. See a past podcast episode on all things oral sex that we've done here. But you're getting the messaging. Their hatred for gay people is so overt that the way gay people touch each other, they call it unnatural. That's really debatable, folks, in 2023, wouldn't you say? And I'm being kind. I don't find it debatable. Can they create a baby? No, but they adopt beautiful babies who don't have parents. This organization covers over the fact that they're just hateful. That's all this is. Two loving people deciding to be together in a loyal relationship, or maybe not. Maybe they just want to hook up and have some fun. They're consenting adults. What does this have to do with making babies? We all know, because it all comes from the magic book. But they don't even remotely comment on character, on motive, on nuance. It's about how they touch each other. By the way, you married men and women, you better not touch each other the way gay people touch each other. It's just hatred. And by the way, men and women who aren't gay do all the same fun stuff our wonderful gay people do. They do all of it. In fact, they do it all the time. And in fact, without getting too deep into this, most of our beautiful women will tell you that doing things, I don't know how to get around it, orally is what leads them to the greatest pleasure and satisfaction within their relationship. I'll stop there. I want to be respectful. But it doesn't stop, folks. It just keeps going in the diatribe against gay people. From the Watchtower of 1983, March 15th, page 31, which I might add for any of former elders listening, this is the landmark one. We all know that date. We all know that article, especially if you were an elder in the 80s. We all know this one. Watchtower of 83, March 15th. Oh yeah, ding, ding, ding. It says this, quote, "Thus a mate," heterosexual I might add, "enforcing perverted acts they are, such as oral or anal sex within the marriage, would not constitute a scriptural basis for a divorce that would free either for remarriage. However, if it becomes known that a member of the congregation is practicing or openly advocating perverted sex, it is relations within the marriage bond that one certainly would not be irreprehensible and so would not be acceptable for special privileges such as serving as an elder, a ministerial servant, or a pioneer. Such practice and advocacy could even lead to expulsion from the congregation," end quote. This article, folks, I could do that by heart, caused so many problems for us as elders. Men and women who were, I'm going to be delicate, going down on each other. That's what they do. That's what married people do, men and women, and our wonderful gay people, was suddenly horrible because that's what gay people do. That was it. And you could be disfellowshipped. Do you want to know the marriages we had to keep together? Where literally sisters would go, "That's the only way I can enjoy things." Nope, that's what gay people do. You could be disfellowshipped, and your husband can't be an elder. I could go on a diatribe on this one, and I probably should do an episode, Experiences from the Edge. And it's interesting, they've gone dark on this subject since this article, but the stigma remains in the congregations of Jehovah's Witnesses. The younger generation laugh when they hear this reference. They're like, whatever, I've been doing that in my relationship all along, and I'm not going to stop. But there was a time within Jehovah's Witnesses where this was a death knell, and it broke up marriages. People were disfellowshipped because heterosexual people were acting like gay people. And oh, by the way, we hate gay people, according to the governing body. It's incredible. Just imagine focusing on how gay people enjoy touching each other over focusing on what they claim they're all about. Love. Two people in love. No, that doesn't matter. To the governing body, and their magic book, I got it. It's a weird thing. It's a balance between the two, I guess. Two consenting adults deciding to be in a relationship, and they both happen to have a penis or they both happen to have a vagina. None of that matters. It's how they touch those parts that matter. Welcome to Jehovah's Witnesses under the leadership of the governing body. Just reading that. Let's call this what this is. This is hate speech towards gay people. Telling them they're terrible. And look, if you're listening and you still love the Bible and you're a Christian and everything, I respect that. I really do. I try to. But that book and how it's been interpreted by the governing body causes horrific pain to people that just happen to love another person of the same gender. It's absurd. As I move to conclusion this week, because I think I need to punch something or take a shower, I got to go there. And anyone who knows this show knows I'm going to go there. This all becomes so much more horrifying when you consider that they target children with this messaging. Kids, baby brains, teenagers. I'm putting teenagers there because they're kids. Being a teenager is tough enough. Wouldn't you agree? Oh my God. The acne, the confusion, the crush that won't give you the time of day. It's all so confusing. But the governing body has gone out of their way, spent millions of dollars for millions of pages of literature promoting anti-gay propaganda aimed at teenagers. And now children, kids that are younger than teenagers. There's so much of it to discuss on this subject that I can't include it all in this episode. So there it is. I'm just going to do it now. I'm going to commit to a part 2 on this subject because there's a ton of stuff we haven't talked about. We're going to cover the messaging to gay teenagers and how elders are told to deal with gay people and more. There it is. I'm going to commit to that. I sense I'm kind of reaching my emotional limit on this terrible stuff. So let's just get this out of the way real quick. They target young kids with hateful messaging on gay people, and they always have. If we just bring it up to modern times, something you can watch right now that they want us to believe comes from Jesus Christ, by extension, his father, Jehovah, you can take a look at one of the most horrific things I've ever seen from Jehovah's Witnesses. And you guessed it, it sends me right off a cliff. I present to you Caleb and Sophia, Lesson 22, entitled One Man, One Woman. A Pixar-like presentation where the governing body gets kids to see gay people as bad. If you haven't seen this, my God, how do I recommend watching something this horrible? I can't, but look, it's out there. If you want to, for strictly education, you can find it on YouTube. To summarize the episode, young Sophia, young girl, I don't know, she's like 9, 10, comes home from school to tell her mother that her little friend in class, Carrie, drew 2 mommies as a project, and they have a very happy family. She drew it with crayons. Mom, Jehovah's Witness lady, sister, whoever, of course, talks about how Jehovah knows best. He only made boys to like girls, that anyone that wants to live in paradise must leave things behind that Jehovah doesn't like. Mom goes on to tell young Sophia, as she watches on with big eyes, that people can change. And she asks young Sophia, while the clown music hums in the background of this episode, what she can tell Carrie about her gay mommies. Sophia says, quote, I can tell her about paradise. I can tell her about animals. And I can tell her about the resurrection. I watched the episode, folks, and I, of course, thought, gay people Jehovah already killed? Because we're learning that Jehovah's going to kill all the gay people. They're detestable to him. But Sophia's going to tell little Carrie, who just innocently drew a picture of her two beautiful mommies, about the resurrection of gay people that already died. Or does he resurrect them as they were? I'm sorry, this is my brain on speed, I guess. It's on a lot of caffeine. You watch the episode and you go, wait a minute, look, there's so much wrong here. There's so much wrong here. Oh my God, is there so much wrong here? But little Sophia's going to talk about paradise, animals, and resurrection. Wait a minute, resurrection? Does Jehovah resurrect gay people as they were? You know, gay? So that they can do it all over again? Oh no. The message is there. It's always there. And the baby brain's taking it in. Her mom tells Sophia, people can change. People could change. Doesn't matter if they should, or there's any reason to, or if they even can. But she tells her that they can. Nothing of depth is covered here. Mom just shows her happiness with her that she found the picture of two beautiful mommies, Carrie's beautiful moms that she's safe and secure with, that Sophia found that disturbing, and she goes on to tell her, let's practice out what to tell Carrie. I often ask here, what is the depth of evil we are seeing? Mom is sending Sophia back to school to talk about sexuality with another little girl who has two mommies. Yep, Sophia, little Sophia in this cartoon, who has never had a romantic relationship or a menstrual cycle or sex, is going to just focus on the fairy tale of Jehovah's Witnesses and then crush the soul of another little girl by making her feel terrible about having two mommies that love her and haven't hurt anyone. It's never considered that both mommies might be awesome people who have come together to raise and adopt Carrie. Never mentioned. It's never considered what they may have gone through, how they met, or even how Carrie feels about her wonderful mommies, which is apparently pretty damn good based on the cute picture she drew for the class. No. All that matters is that they're both going to die a horrible death, possibly while little Carrie watches on, as she will learn if she hangs out with Sophia, simply because they love each other and they're good mommies. Behold, Jehovah's Witnesses messaging to young children in their congregations, and to young children out who may have gay parents, who may be gay themselves. How this continuous onslaught of hateful messaging to gay people isn't seen as hate speech by governments is over my head. And remember, this is all based on 6 verses or stories in the magic book called the Bible. A book people in our century are supposed to turn to for every important decision or emotion they have. A book that on one page has Jehovah, the Creator, allowing Cain to slaughter his brother, run away, kidnap his sister, and have sex with her. But just a few pages away, the same Jehovah says he regrets ever making human beings to begin with. He's really an early quitter, isn't he? Apparently. And then decides to drown everyone. But be sure to study it and teach little impressionable minds that in 2023, when 2 wonderful women team up to be mothers and lovers, this little book and 9 guys in upstate New York say that's a terrible thing deserving of death. And in all honesty, they can't wait to kill them. They're waiting on pins and needles to destroy these women. But better yet, when I saw the title of this video for little people, One Man, One Woman, I couldn't help, and here's my brain, folks, I couldn't help but think, well, unless you're Solomon of the magic book, right? One man, 1,000 women, 700 wives, 300 concubines, probably coming out soon at Caleb and Sophia, because men are okay to enslave hundreds of women, but Jehovah hates it if just two wonderful women love each other and are loyal to each other and get in a relationship. I mean, my God, let the brain fire. Let the synapses connect, please. I find myself wondering what the therapy bill will be like for little people that grew up on this Caleb and Sophia stuff. And on a serious note, please, any PME or Jehovah's Witness that has bravely sat through my diatribe that might be listening, please don't expose your kids to this. Please, please. Lose the videos. I'm exhausted. I'm going to commit, though. There's so much more on this subject, and I realize that it was multiple minutes of sharing the hate speech that is rolled out of upstate New York on the dimes and donations of people who are being fed the various information. My God, there's so much to unpack. I'm going to do a part 2 on this subject. And specifically so because as I sit here, I realize we had no time to cover how the elders help gay people. That's straight sarcasm. Although, well, I can't say that. I was met with many gay people, and I want to think I helped them, but it was all under the umbrella of them. But I want to talk about how the elders impact gay people and how it impacts teenagers that are gay. To be honest, I feared I'd be exhausted just talking about this. And to be honest with you, it's true. It's so hateful. It's so absurd that I need to take a breath. I'm exhausted. And I realize this has gone long. There's so much ground to cover to give anyone listening the full scope on how the governing body of Jehovah's Witnesses is today in 2023 attacking gay people. And it's done it for decades, people. I know I might lose it. I'm probably going to cuss a lot, so you've been warned, but we're going to have to talk about this other stuff. That stuff, after you realize what they feed Jehovah's Witnesses, is really the meat of this subject. We got to talk about how this has impacted precious human beings and souls, our gay friends. And we're going to. So you've been warned, it's coming. I need to take a breath on this subject before I commit to doing it next week, but it's coming. In the meantime, to our amazing gay friends, to my amazing gay friends, to my amazing gay family members, I love you. We love you. God, we love you. You're amazing. Thank you for the insights you give us. Thank you for the different perspectives that we don't think of. Thanks for being here. We freaking love you. And if that disgusting organization has made you feel the least bit bad about yourself, please know that I can speak for probably more than myself listening. We send you big, big, big ass hugs. As I stated at the outset, I struggle with this subject for a lot of reasons, but I know some of them are my own personality, my own viewpoint on this. I think it's absurdly stupid. I never see people for color or their sexuality. They're people. Are they good? Are they cool? What do they do? What do they like? I don't see it any other way. I like the beach. You like the mountains. I like tacos. You like tamales. And I frickin' love it. Let's hang out and talk about it. To all of our gay friends, massive hugs. We know what you've been through if you've been associated with Jehovah's Witnesses, and I hope you're free. If you're gay and listening, please stay. Please. There's community here, even if it is digital podcasting. We love you. Be good to yourself. I want to thank everyone who stayed through this one, wherever you may be, And by the way, whomever you may love, be well, and we will see you next week.